Hey, history detectives, buckle up because today we are tackling one of the wildest myths out there. Was John Hanson, a guy from the 1780s, America's first president and the first black president? Yep, I said that correctly, and you heard me correctly. And so you've probably seen that blowing up online, that claim, but maybe even heard it from a friend. Who knows? But the question is it true? So welcome to I Know History, or do I? This is where we shred historical myth with cold hard facts. I'm Rebecca, and today we're diving deep into the tale of the two John Hansons. Some sneaky photos, a $2 bill mix-up, but stick around for the truth. It's juicier than you think. And hit that subscribe button, and let's jump in. All right, so we're going to lay out the myth. Okay, the story goes that John Hanson was the real first U.S. president before George Washington. Serving in the 1780s under the Articles of Confederation. Before I forget, he was supposed to be black too. Making him America's first black president. Some posts even claim he's the guy on the back of the $2 bill. I don't know, what do you think? Sounds like a history game changer, right? But, imagine textbooks leaving that information out. Like, really? But before we get carried away, let's ask, where did this idea even come from? So this myth has legs. Way before the internet, even way before the internet. Some trace it back to the 1990s when comedian Dick Gregory started talking about a black John Hanson. Fast forward, and social media posts like Facebook in 2016 that went viral spread this idea like wildfire. So, there's the post. And then they spread this the post, and then they put out this picture. They point to this photo as proof. But here's the first red flag. This is a daguerreotype from the 1850s. Photography wasn't invented until the 1830s. And Hanson was way long gone by then. So what's going on? So we're going to hit the archives and we're going to find out. But quick question. Have you ever heard of this myth before? Or maybe have you seen this photo floating around? Drop it in the comments. I'd like to know how far this has gotten. So let's meet the first John Hanson, born April 14th, 1721, in Charles County, Maryland. Now, this guy was a big deal in the American Revolution, but not in the way that the myth claims. Now, picture this. So you've got Hanson's born into a wealthy white planter family. His parents, Samuel and Elizabeth, owned 1,000 acres. And they had some slaves. Primary sources, like land records and his will, confirm that he was part of the Maryland elite, and definitely not a black man in a deeply segregated colonial world. Now, Hanson's career, straight up patriot vibes. He starts as a sheriff in 1750, then serves in the Maryland General Assembly, railing against the British taxes like, the Stamp Act. And by 1779, he's in the Second Continental Congress, helping Maryland finally sign the Articles of Confederation in 1781. Now, that's when things, start getting a little bit more interesting. On November 5th, 1781, Congress elects him President of the United States in Congress assembled. Notice what I said. President of the United States in Congress assembled. Different than President of the United States. Stop. All right, but it sounds fancy, right? But it's not that kind of president. So this role was more like a glorified meeting chair. Hanson signed letters, he moderated debates, he kept things moving under the Articles of Confederation. Now think less Oval Office and more guy with a pen, quill pen at that. The journals of the Continental Congress list him signing stuff like troop requisitions and letters to George Washington, but he served 1 year. Until 1782. And it wasn't even the first president of the Congress assembled. We had Samuel Huntington and Thomas McKean, who were there in that position before him. So not the first U.S. president in the modern sense. George Washington still holds that title in 1789 under the Constitution. Oh yeah, and that $2 bill thing. So the figure some claim is Hanson is actually Robert Morse, a white founding father in a vignette from John Trumbull's painting. Now, the monochrome printing, it looks ambiguous, but it's not Hanson, and it's definitely not a black man. Case closed. All right, so let's see. Now let's get to the other John Hanson. So who is in that famous photo? So this photo that everybody keeps referring to is John Hanson number 2. Black man, born around 1791 in Baltimore, Maryland. Now this Hanson was born into slavery, and he freed himself. And in 1827, he joined the American Colonization Society's mission to Liberia. Now, Liberia, founded in 1822 for freed African Americans, was a bold experiment, and Hanson became the merchant and a big player there. By 1840, he's elected senator in Liberia's Commonwealth, serving Grand Bassa County. Now, when Liberia becomes independent in 1847, he's a key figure in its early government. His daguerreotype, taken by black photographer Augustus Washington in the 1850s, and they don't have the exact year, is what gets mistaken for the American Hanson. But think about it. The Revolutionary War era had no cameras, and a black man leading Congress in 1781, and a slaveholding society. It's not happening. Two different guys, two different stories. Now, the Liberian Hanson story is incredible. He went from slavery to helping build a new nation. So the question is, why don't we talk more about that? Why is that not taught in schools? And while I'm on that topic, what's a hidden historical figure you'd like to learn about? Drop it in the comments and I might cover it. Okay, so why does this myth keep popping up? First, it's a classic case of mistaken identity. Happens all the time. The Liberian Hanson's photo gets slapped onto the American Hanson story, and boom, confusion. Second, there's a deeper reason. Historian James Robinson points out that African American communities, often left out of the mainstream history, latch onto stories like this to reclaim a sense of pride. And that, I feel, is kind of valid. But we gotta get the facts straight, gotta keep them right, so we honor people for what they actually did. Like Barack Obama is the actual first Black U.S. president, and that was in 2009. But here's the thing. Misinformation does not help and muddies the waters big time. The American Hanson was a white patriot who owned slaves. We can't ignore that. Slavery is abhorrent. It's one of the darkest times in this U.S. country, or in this country as we know as the United States. And his 1783 will shows that he did own them. The Liberian Hanson was a trailblazer in a different way. Mixing them up does a disservice to both. Plus, the internet loves a good conspiracy. Yeah, everybody does. Ever fallen for a history myth online? Spill the tea in the comments. I'm all ears. Because there's been a lot of misrepresentations. A lot of people think they know what they know, and turns out that they don't. So, there you have it. The John Hanson myth. Busted. 2 men, 2 stories, 1 big mix-up. So thank you for joining us on this truth hunt at I Know History, or Do I? If you love this deep dive, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more myth-busting goodness. And if you want me to tackle another history myth, let me know. Maybe Cleopatra's Egyptian roots or the Viking horn helmets. Drop your ideas below, and we'll see you in the next one. So as I say, stay curious, history detectives. I'll be back. Bye.